Camila Nakagawa was MTV's most favorite female star ever. She was not giving up because of anyone, and she was not losing because of anyone either. However, what they failed to realize was that their favorite female star would eventually force MTV to ban her from the show entirely. Known for being unfiltered, for fighting men like a man, and for her fierce desire to beat everyone in the game, there was no doubt why people nicknamed her the Camillanator. She was like a one-man army. But when MTV tried to mess with her, they made the biggest mistake of their life. So, what really happened to the most viral star who made over $56,000 with MTV? And why did she turn from the most loved to the most hated reality TV star of all time? Perhaps the reason why Camila developed a darker personality, which made people dislike her almost as much as Tila Tequila, if not more, is because as her fame grew, people seemed to be more excited to watch her throwing tantrums or getting aggressive. In the early years, people started watching clips of her temper tantrums and outbursts because they were quite entertaining. MTV noticed this pattern and started using her rants, meltdowns, and arguments as highlight reels. MTV would get over 100,000 views on each video by using titles that teased what kind of drama she would create next. Camila Nakagawa's first brush with MTV fame came when she competed on the Spring Break Challenge, where her high energy and fierce competitiveness made her impossible to ignore. The Challenge, a reality show on MTV which has had 39 seasons so far, where cash prizes are given to winners of physical and mental challenges, instantly recognized her potential and invited her to join the series. The MTV Challenge has spanned 37 seasons, over 500 episodes, and has been running since 1998. In Camila's first full season on the show called Cutthroat, she was placed on the underdog gray team, where she had to earn every ounce of respect. Despite being a rookie and an outsider to the veteran alliances, her athleticism and sheer determination made her stand out. She fought through 13 elimination rounds known as gulags and won 9 of them, proving that she was more than just another MTV recruit. While some viewers were drawn to her because she seemed like a genuine team player, her presence on the show was already becoming hard to ignore. In a way, Camila started out like other controversial reality TV stars, such as Tila Tequila, who was dropped from Celebrity Big Brother for being pro-Nazi. Initially regarded as trash talk, this was proven after an old tweet she shared about Hitler being a brilliant artist who was ahead of his time was discovered. Surprisingly, this was not the first time Tila Tequila had made racist comments. She also caught heat after making racist tweets about Jennifer Lopez, and after those comments surfaced, her Twitter account seemed to vanish completely. Similarly, people loved Camila's fiery attitude in the beginning. She spoke her mind and was not afraid to call out anyone if she thought they were doing something wrong. But in subsequent seasons, castmates like Tori complained that her outbursts were getting more personal, especially when it came to trivial matters. As Camila's behavior continued to get out of hand, her fan base stuck by her side because many still saw her as the fierce newcomer. And yet the other girls kept accusing her of stealing their belongings and often ganged up against her to make her look like a bad person. For example, in one incident, the girls accused her of stealing their sweatpants even though she is 5 feet tall and wears a totally different size. To make things worse, she did not win her first season. Yet Camila stood out from other competitors because she did not censor herself for the cameras. She said what others were too careful to say, and fans loved that. One of her most talked about moments to date was when she called out the challenge producers directly. In an era where so many reality stars felt manufactured, Camila felt completely real. But over time, real turned into reckless. There is a difference between being outspoken and being out of control, and Camila crossed that line too many times. Her drunken outbursts and eventually her racist remarks hurt her relationships with castmates such as Bananas, who cared deeply about her. The same fire that made her watchable became the very reason MTV could not keep her around. And in the end, losing her career on MTV was the price she paid for being unfiltered. Fans were going into a frenzy wondering what had happened to Camila from the challenge. As one Reddit user would sum it up by saying, she was the best as usual and the seasons went downhill after she stopped coming back. Sure, Reality TV thrives on drama, but it rarely protects the people caught in it. And Camila, for all her faults, became a perfect example of that. But the actual question is, was she simply her own worst enemy? Or was she breaking down under the pressure to always have the winning edge, especially after losing 3 loved ones in such a short period of time? Considering how her Instagram and TikTok accounts are named after her days as a contestant on the challenge, you get the distinct feeling that even Camila knows she ruined her big break. And if given a chance, she would probably do a lot of things differently. Her apology, as she herself said, did not seem to matter because it was such a bigger issue. She expressed being deeply sorry, but acknowledged that what truly mattered was the lesson to be learned from her experience. On later seasons of the challenge, especially in the Champs vs. Stars edition, she looked tired and worn down. One viewer described it by saying she just looked worn down and miserable. During the finale, there was zero passion. People remembered past challenges where she was fiery and unstoppable, but now she just looked like she was ready to snap if anyone even looked at her the wrong way. Production reportedly began to see her as unpredictable, not just angry, because her outbursts always happened at the least expected moments. Even before her peak seasons, Camila's off-camera behavior was becoming more worrisome. She was often getting into fights with other contestants. In those early days, most people brushed it off as part of her wild side. She was described as great when sober but volatile when drinking. What MTV had celebrated as authenticity was slowly becoming instability. By the time another season called Battle of the Bloodlines went live, those red flags were impossible to ignore. Her argument with Tony Raines, another contender on the challenge, became one of the biggest highlights of the season. It featured a full-blown fight between the two of them, which viewers could not stop talking about till date. On forums, longtime viewers' tones started to change from supportive to concerned. One fan wrote that she really needed a break. Others described her as overrated, annoying, and entitled, saying her once likable personality had turned sour. She often struggled to connect with other castmates, particularly when it came to teamwork. Many hated the idea of being her roommate or partnering with her. However, some fans still defended her talent, noting that she could go toe-to-toe with anyone physically, even beating powerhouses like Laurel. But others were done with the drama, pointing out that MTV kept rewarding her meltdowns with more screen time. And, honestly, that was not too far from the truth. Every outburst meant more airtime, more clips, and more conversation. And in reality TV, that was the ultimate currency. The cycle fed itself. The angrier Camila got, the more attention she received. Camila Nakagawa had become one of the challenge's defining figures who dominated the intense physical competitions. She was not just another cast member. She was part of the show's DNA. Before she let fame get to her head, Camila could not hide her surprise every time she was invited back for another round of the challenge. Some people just have that inborn ability to shine no matter what they do, and Camila was one of those people, which would explain why she was such a success on the show. While MTV was still packaging her meltdowns as unfiltered authenticity, those who watched the show consistently saw something else entirely. They saw a person under pressure, burning out in plain sight. Early on, producers framed her emotional reactions as passion, painting her as the fearless underdog who refused to play politics. Her fiery nature was celebrated as realness. Her outbursts were reframed as proof that she never holds back. In interviews and confessionals, she leaned into that label. She called herself passionate, real, and misunderstood. The nickname Camilanator, once a teasing inside joke among castmates, evolved into her full-blown alter ego, a character that MTV marketed and fans debated endlessly online. But this merging of character and self came at a serious cost. Camila the person and Camila the brand began to blur. Every time she went on an angry tirade, it reinforced the myth that her rants were what made her special and that being calm or reflective would somehow make her less watchable. By now, alcohol was a recurring factor. Johnny, her ex and another contestant on the challenge, would later admit that she was great when sober but completely unpredictable after drinking. Instead of encouraging her to address those issues, MTV made sure her meltdowns received even more screen time. Reality TV stars often have a bigger following when they are known for something specific, especially when that thing is drama. Most people do not want to spend their time watching everyone simply smile at each other. They want action. And Camila delivered the kind of raw, unfiltered entertainment that fans enjoy. But what no one seemed to consider was the toll it was taking on the people around her, especially Bananas, who was deeply in love with her at the time. When they returned for a new season, fans were surprised to see Camila reconnect with Tony Reigns, a man she had publicly clashed with before. Their earlier fight during Battle of the Bloodlines had been one of her first major televised blow-ups. Yet at the start of the following season, the two were suddenly flirting and later became involved. Tony, however, faced backlash after his girlfriend found out what had happened. He admitted he did not want to address it on the show and would rather have handled it privately. But things truly boiled over when Camila launched into a verbal attack on her castmate Leroy Garrett, one of the few competitors known for keeping his composure. It all started when Camila believed Leroy had said no one would ever want to take her out in the competition. The confrontation quickly escalated into something far uglier than just another Camilanator moment. For fans, this was the real turning point. It was not just an explosion of temper. It was an exposure of the emotional damage that her unfiltered behavior could truly cause. Rather than removing her from the show, production allowed her to stay. Fans who had witnessed the outburst could not understand how MTV justified that decision. Leroy later revealed that MTV had specially apologized to him and created new policies in order to convince him to return. A Tower unbiased training course was put in place for both cast and crew, something MTV had never done before. It was all Leroy had ever wanted, which was to make sure what happened to him would never happen to anyone else again. When the challenge reared older seasons during the 2020 racial justice movement, viewers flooded social media demanding answers. Why had MTV rewarded Camila after a racist attack? Why had Leroy's pain been treated as just another storyline? Critics were blunt in saying that if MTV truly cared, she would never have been cast again. Yet, she was cast immediately after the incident. And if they truly cared, she would not have gone on to win $500,000. After Dirty 30, where her racist outburst toward Leroy Garrett drew widespread outrage, many assumed MTV would quietly sideline her. But that never happened. What is known is that during filming for Champs vs. Stars, Camila's behavior became completely out of control. Just when people thought things could not get worse, she got into a physical altercation with a production assistant who was trying to calm her down during one of her drunken episodes. Reports say she reportedly punched the production assistant in the face. She then allegedly ran out of the room, jumped into a golf cart, and sped off down the street until the battery gave out and crew members had to intervene. This was not another drunken fight in the house or a heated elimination argument. This was an assault on someone who worked behind the scenes, someone the audience would never see but whose safety production was fully responsible for. Immediately after the altercation, Camila was pulled from filming and sent home. There were no on-camera goodbyes and no dramatic send-off. She simply vanished from the show mid-season. Fans expected she would at least show up for the reunion, but Camila did not get a second chance at redemption. Nearly the entire cast of Season 30 joined the nail-biting reunion special, but Camila was noticeably missing. MTV confirmed that during Champs vs. Stars, Camila was disqualified after assaulting a producer off-camera, an incident they confirmed but never aired. It was one of those moments where the show simply could not cover for her anymore. Even MTV, a network known for letting drama slide, was forced to remove her from the cast entirely. Although she was ultimately kicked out for assaulting a producer, fans had already started falling out of love with her well before that moment. It was all because of that incident when she hurled racist insults at Leroy Garrett during the competition. The incident gained renewed attention in 2021 after Leroy spoke openly about how insecure and hurt he had felt knowing that another cast member only saw his skin color. He also pointed out the painful reality that he was the only person of color on the challenge at the time. He shared that MTV did nothing to help him or protect him in that moment, and that he had no idea why his skin color was being brought into the situation at all. He added that he lost a great deal of respect for what came out of her mouth and that she would be in tears over the way she had spoken to him. Her absence did not go unnoticed. For fans who had closely followed her MTV journey, there was no closure. Many felt that if Camila had not gone overboard with her behavior, she would have been on the female Mount Rushmore of the challenge. Clips were occasionally recirculated online, and Reddit threads speculated endlessly about why she disappeared and whether she would ever return. For years, it seemed she was simply removing herself from the spotlight entirely. After a while, Camila finally posted an apology video on TikTok directed toward Leroy. It was a moment of quiet reflection where she acknowledged that her apology alone was not enough and that the real lesson was for everyone to take away from her experience. It was not until over 7 years later that Camila began posting on social media again, and this time under very different circumstances. She first teased a pregnancy and followed this with consistent posts until her son Kaiden was born. By then, her content had a dramatically different focus. It was no longer about competition, drama, or reality TV triumphs. It was about her life outside the spotlight. Camila posted glimpses of motherhood, candid moments with her son, reflections on daily parenting, and celebrations of small joys. There were also more personal posts hinting at her journey towards self-love, body acceptance, and healing after her career had gone up in flames. The shift was noticeable. Gone were the aggressive, confrontational posts and viral outbursts that had once defined her presence on the challenge. Instead, her social media reflected a more introspective Camila, a woman attempting to find balance after years of intense public scrutiny. Fans commenting on her posts quickly noticed the difference. Some praised her for showing genuine growth, applauding her openness about the challenges of motherhood and the process of rebuilding a life after very public mistakes. However, the reactions were not universally positive. While some embraced her return as a sign of personal growth, others reminded everyone of all the terrible things she had done. For many, no amount of posts about motherhood or self-reflection could fully erase the memories of her past behavior. Debates erupted online about whether Camila's return should be celebrated as a fresh start or scrutinized as a strategic rebranding. Despite the mixed reactions, Camila's posts revealed a woman who seemed intent on redefining herself on her own terms. One of the more interesting aspects of her return to social media was how she navigated the conversation about her past. She did not openly revisit or explain the controversies that had once defined her public persona. There were no extended apologies, no recounting of Dirty 30, and no justifications for her prior behavior. Instead, she chose to acknowledge her life today through the lens of her present experiences. In doing so, Camila allowed herself a degree of separation from her reality TV past while still retaining the attention of fans who remembered her well. Her online reemergence coincided with a natural change in her life as a parent. Motherhood became a central theme in her posts, and it was clear that her son Kaiden had completely reshaped her priorities. For fans who had followed her reality TV journey, this change was stark. Camila the fierce competitor had given way to Camila the mother, a more introspective and grounded individual. Of course, not all reactions were forgiving. Some longtime followers continued to bring up her past behavior, pointing out the controversies that had contributed to her exit from the challenge. Surprisingly, Camila chose not to react to any of these comments. Instead, she simply continued sharing content about her life as a mother. This was quite shocking to say the least, considering how the old Camila would not have hesitated for even a second before firing back. As Camila's reality TV career came to an end, many fans began to question how much of her behavior was genuinely her own versus a product of the toxic challenge environment. People pointed out how reality TV shows like Big Brother and The Challenge only get more views when there is major drama, such as drunken fights or intense rivalry between housemates. Some viewers felt that Camila's volatility intensified after deeply personal events, particularly the death of her grandmother during Rivals 3. A clip from episode 7 showed her being woken by a producer and told to call her sister, only to learn of her grandmother's passing. Overwhelmed with grief, Camila broke down completely in tears while competitors looked on. After revisiting those episodes, it becomes clear that some of her more irrational behavior could have been a coping mechanism for unprocessed grief. For example, the infamous kiss with Tony on the bus had happened right after she lost her grandmother. And the accusations of cheating in episode 6 of Rivals 3 were magnified under the show's high-stakes editing, which consistently cast her in the most negative light possible. Ultimately, the question remains, was Camila a villain, or was she a symptom of a toxic system that thrives on drama and discards its stars when they are at their lowest? Producers knew exactly how to push those emotional buttons. Characters were built in the editing room. Nice people were made to look insecure. Confident women were painted as aggressive. And viewers ate it all up. Behind every episode was a small army of producers, editors, and directors shaping the story. Although Camila was eventually kicked off the show, fans and castmates still remember her for the extraordinary level of entertainment she brought to the challenge. There was that time she danced in front of everyone and issued teasing threats to Amanda. Then there was the infamous finale incident with Eric on Battle of the Seasons, which fans still debate endlessly. On the surface, Camila looked like she had completely lost control, shouting and confronting him after they were eliminated. But people who had followed the show for years noted that Eric had a history of saying terrible things to her and that she was under constant stress throughout the competition. Some fans defended her by pointing out that her reaction may have been entirely justified given the circumstances. Others added that Camila's outspoken personality made her stand out more, but that her co-stars were doing things just as bad, if not worse, behind the scenes. In the end, she was both a fierce competitor and someone struggling deeply under immense pressure. She was a reminder that reality TV does not just create stars. It villainizes them, often at the direct expense of their humanity. Camila knew this place played tricks on people. She knew it better than anyone. And the tears she cried along the way were proof of just how much it all truly cost her.